Hey guys, Nananki here, bringing you another Team Fortress 2 gameplay commentary. Today I am playing Engineer primarily, though I'm starting out with a clip of Pyro, just because it ended funny. And I also wanted to point out that this is recorded in 1080p. It's processed in 1080p, nothing about it's ever changed, and it looks pretty good. The next series of clips, after the miraculous save there, he jumps into the pit. Yeah, I loved it. These clips, on the other hand, are actually recorded at 720p, and I found them on the other hard drive I have that I don't normally save Fraps footage to when I was digging through it. Back when I had run out of hard drive space and before I had purchased another hard drive, I was kind of storing footage wherever. So this round is actually recorded back in December, if the date on it can be believed. But since I was making an NG video anyway, I was like, you know, now's a good time to use it rather than just throw it away. I had saved it when I found it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I'll use it tonight. So I'm using the Frontier Justice, as you can see, the Mini Sentries, which means the Gunslinger, and the pistol as my secondary. When I'm using this setup, I prefer the pistol because the Frontier Justice runs out of ammo real quickly with those 3 rounds, and it's really convenient to have another weapon to switch to immediately to be able to finish people off. That doesn't mean I don't love the Frontier Justice. Having guaranteed crits is a dynamic that I can't pass up, and especially when it's contingent on just using your Mini Sentries to get assists and kills, which is pretty much what you're doing with Mini Sentries anyway. And nothing else is going to let you kill a heavy as an NG in 2 shots. That's just awesome. I love it. Even if I died immediately after to a scout. And I think the same scout puts an end to this rampage on this, like, well, less of a rampage maybe, but puts an end to it all the same. The best thing I think about having a Mini Sentry and when you're facing something like a Pyro is they've got to decide whether they want to fight you or your Mini Sentry. And if they're going to fight you, then odds are the Mini Sentry will take care of them. If they're going to fight your Mini Sentry, then odds are you can take them down. Of course, that does mean you've got to get those shots. Like right there, I did have time for 2 shots against that scout. If either one of those had been dead on, he would have been dead because the critical shotgun blasts are 180 if all the pellets land. And there's another example of when to use the pistol. You know, I put up the sentry there thinking I'd be close enough to it that the scout, again, would have to pick between me and my sentry, and if not me, then my sentry would kill him. No, he killed me and ran off. That's exactly how you do it as a scout. The interval during building is pretty much the most vulnerable time for an engineer, because they don't yet have the whole point of their class up to help them. Without it, they're just kind of a gimpy, shotgun-using, low-health heavy. I don't even know what to call it. It's like, you're not slow like a heavy, though, so it's not really an apt analogy. But yeah, I was taking some damage there, and I figured I should probably go get health, and I noticed my gun had been brought down immediately, and I knew there had to be somebody shooting it. It was that soldier there in the corner. But when I went to go get health, I got hit by the sniper by an arrow. And so again, I'm just dropping the sentry immediately, even if it's not in a very offensive spot, even if it's not covering the point. At least it was in a position to get something done. A little bit of shooting. Took a bite out of somebody, maybe. And you've got to kind of work at the fringes as a Mini Sentry NG. That's how I find myself getting the most accomplished, is by trying to work the fringes. If you try to inject yourself directly into the center of combat, there are lots and lots of classes that can kill you in 1 or 2 shots. So trying to take them on directly is just asking for trouble. Even if, by luck, somebody does miss you several times, that doesn't mean that that class doesn't have the solution to ending your existence in the blink of an eye. Of course, the same does go for you. You've got to be effective with your 3 shotgun blasts, especially when you've got the revenge crits loaded into it, because more often than not, I've only got a few. Like right now, I've got 4, which is actually an entire clip plus 1. But I've got a Mini Sentry to deal with, and I want to pistol it down, but of course that means that I'm focused over there, and I'm still kind of in range, and with 54 health yet, I get blasted by a scout. You know, all I accomplished there was getting down the Mini Sentry, and I died, which means he puts another one up immediately. And when I'm not certain about sticking a Mini Sentry around a corner, like when I don't know who's on the point or how many people are on the point, I'll put it around the corner slightly so that if I have to retreat a little bit and ideally get somebody to come out around the corner after me, I'm in a better position to take them out. And also somebody's not as close to a corner to, you know, dip out and sap it and dip back around the corner before you can blink. So that gives you kind of an advantage there as well. And as you can see there, the video quality went from slightly blurry to sharper. And anytime you see a video on YouTube that is slightly blurry, it's actually a really solid bet that the individual behind it has upscaled lower resolution footage into a higher resolution. And so here's my round on Nucleus that I actually played the other night after I finished playing with a buddy of mine, Metamorphosis. We were trying to play with the Widowmaker and the Kritzkrieg, and I'm not saying we didn't, and I'm not saying it wasn't fun, but it turned out that my mic was off the whole time, so all I had was him recorded, and no me. And trying to go back and do commentary on live recorded footage that has another person responding to empty space is impossible. It sounds silly. In fact, I actually chopped up what was basically 40 minutes of us playing into a minute and a half at the end of this round, and replaced me with music. So it's just my friend talking to no one and music playing while we murder some people with the Widowmaker. You'd almost call it like a little frag video, except it's not impressive. It's just kind of amusing. I really do like using Mini Sentries on circular maps like Nucleus, or many of the King of the Hill maps for that matter, because you've got a lot of good places from which to lay sentries and bait people, and places to dip out and hide. Like right there, a heavy comes around the corner, and I've immediately got several avenues of escape, none of which he can really pursue me down or hit me on. And I saw my mini sentry there had been shooting the crap out of him while he had been minigunning it, and I really hoped he had no health left so one punch would drop him, but no, he had given up that encounter with about half his health left, because even after punching him, he still had about a quarter, I'd say, and heavies, that's a lot of meat to go through for the little mini. And here I'm on the point, but only barely, because I don't want to get blown to smithereens by all these stickies. And I think if he had deaded them any sooner, literally even a few frames sooner, he'd have had me, because even with just 2 there, I still got dropped down to 20 health. So now I'm playing the game called Jump All Over the Place and Try Not to Get Headshotted by the Sniper. And, you know, I feel like I can only push my luck so far without, like, jumping. I feel like I have to jump at some point, or I'm going to take a headshot, and I'm trying to get a body shot instead, even though with that little health, what's it matter? And I couldn't tell if that sniper had the Razorback or not. If he didn't, then maybe I just saved his life. If he did, then I saved his Razorback. Maybe less significant. But on fire, going for the health, and more health, because, you know, why not? Always have full health if you can manage it. And never chase a sniper with the huntsman around corners like that, because all he's got to do is launch arrows around the corner at the angle that you've got to approach at, and odds are really good you're going to catch an arrow in the face. It's a far better proposition to try to get him to engage you on your terms, especially when my sentry's not over in that area. I dropped it over at the other side, and I kind of like where I have my sentry, so I don't want to destroy it arbitrarily. I'd rather just let it shoot people when people eventually make their way over to it. But now that we've got the point, I can move my sentry up to that railing, because that railing will actually block some projectiles. I wasn't sure about his status of not being a spy until I spy-checked him in the face. That railing will actually block certain projectiles. I've seen it block like rockets and whatnot without the gun behind it really taking damage. It seems to throw people off a little bit, and it has a pretty good view of the point and will shoot it from that ledge. It is just in range, in fact. It won't shoot much past it, but it will shoot down onto the point. And if people chase you around that corner like they did me, and they don't notice the gun, then it will, of course, shoot at them, even though I, surprisingly, did not get any assists and did not get my gun destroyed. Though, there we have an assist finally on a spy, and then there, my sentry finally gets dropped. And there are those snipers finally, and I love that moment. Like, I stopped dead for a moment. Like, I don't know if that was smart or stupid, stopping dead and trying to bait him into a shot and trying to interrupt his prediction of where I was going to move, but it seems to have worked out that time. You know, try new things, I guess is what I'm saying, you know. Don't always dodge the same way. Don't always just go left, right. If you always do the same thing, then you're going to eventually find yourself utilizing little patterns, whether you realize it or not. And the more you stay in patterns, the more easy you're going to be to predict. And somehow I got the spy taken out, even though he led off with the ambassador headshot, but there was 2 more of them there, so what you going to do? So as soon as I spawn, I see some of my teammates there in the middle of a giant fight with looks like a spy and a pyro and maybe something else. So I built my gun first before I even shot at him, before I gave myself away, and luckily it did get built in time to help me out. And I noticed there when I bumped into that spy, as I was going by, he was dead ringing when I shot him with the pistol, so I destroyed my gun before he could go over there and sap it, and I figured he's probably going to make his way back around to me any second now, and I'm just almost waiting for him, and yep, sure enough, there he was. And all I did was get him with a little tiny 18 damage with the shotgun, but the mini sentry saw him all the way around that corner, and I guess he must be using the internal reward, or just forgetting to disguise, perhaps. And there we go with the guaranteed crits. Something like a pyro is pretty much going to be unable to do anything about that. Even if he's good, even if he shoots you with something like the flare gun or scorch shot or shotguns of his own, you've got crit shots. And God, I almost saved the point there. I almost prevented them from getting even a second on the point that round, and it would have been a perfect victory. But unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately for the sake of having a little bit more footage, I was in fact unable to stop him from getting the point. But we did get it back immediately after that. So I'm building another mini sentry immediately, and I'm looking for the pyro that I know just took down my mini sentry, and I didn't see him down there, and there he is. I don't know how I didn't spot him until I was practically on top of him, but good thing for me that he wasn't watching what he was doing, or he probably could have got me pretty easily there. So I'm just throwing up another mini sentry, and it's not even necessary because the point is ours. I'll go ahead and leave you with the clip I mentioned earlier of me running around with the Widowmaker and my friend running over just healing me and giving me some crits creegs with it. Thank you so much for watching. Do like it if you liked it, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.
Alright, 50%. What world are you? Oh, there you are. I saw you. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Oop, 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 oop. I thought there was two there. Yeah, there was. Oh, now I got behind. Who the hell did I get hit from? Oh, oh, oh. NG battles. Ahoy! Oh, there he goes. There he is. He's right up there with window to the left. Oh, Pyro behind. Oh, oh, oh.